This is Target Score Weekly with Joey Slattery and Taylor Allen. Welcome into another edition of Target Score Weekly. I'm Joey Slattery. We've got Taylor Allen as always, and another special guest to start off the show, Emily Potter. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So Emily, as you probably know, she is a professional basketball player. She's played all over the world, most recently in Australia. She's also the Sea Bears Postgame analyst and host, not guest host. You're a full-time host there. And you had some time with the national team as well. So you're a very well-rounded basketball player and very well-versed with the Sea Bears. So I'm excited for this one. Also, before we start, though, I showed you guys off camera, but for everybody watching, got another new championship shirt, the NBA Jam, Tatum Brown, and I don't know if you noticed, but there is a trophy in this one.
No one cares.
Because they're NBA champions.
This is my life, Emily. Every week at Celtics something, he squeezes it in. I mean, the finals was, over a month ago now, and it never stops.
Taylor, if the Indiana Pacers ever won a championship, just imagine what you're going to be like. Just imagine. Emily, it's crazy that you don't like the Celtics because one of your bigger influences and basketball coaches is a massive Celtics fan, right?
Yes, Brian Kornberger. That's my guy.
Yeah, but you don't take his team. The guy, smart basketball coach, helped you along the way, probably tore everything out of the Celtics playbook along the way. All these great Celtics plays he ran for you to make sure that you were getting the success because he ran successful plays. I mean, you got to give a little love to the Celtics.
No, I don't care. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
You're not getting anything from me.
I don't need, you know what? It's okay.
It's not that I hate the Celtics, but because you like them, it's fine.
Everybody hates the Celtics. It's fine, Emily. You know what? I've learned to walk this road alone with a very small circle, and it's fun.
How brave of you.
You. You know what? Thank you, Emily, for acknowledging that. I appreciate it. But hey, the Sea Bears, since our last episode, have clinched a playoff spot. But unfortunately, they've not secured a home game. There will be no home playoff game this year for the Winnipeg Sea Bears. So let's unpack that. Taylor, you and I talked about this. Start of the year, I think you were the one that was pretty big on this, just that nothing is guaranteed, right? The team looked great on paper. Expectations were high. Even with our predictions, I think I had them at one more win than the year before, only because the entire Western Conference got a lot better. But I don't know. I knew they'd be a playoff team. I think by the end, you were just kind of hoping they would get that the home playoff game. But yeah, this has been a bit of a difficult year. I think it's great that they're in the playoffs for sure, but I think the expectation it's fallen a little below the expectation.
I mean, four out of the 5 teams in the West do make the playoffs. I think them making the playoffs isn't really that big of a deal, if I'm being honest. I mean, coming into this year, the expectation was for this group to win a championship, right? Like, no one was going into this year saying, oh boy, I just hope the Sea Bears make the playoffs, right? And it's
like, congrats, you're not last place.
Yeah, exactly. Like, whoop-de-doo, right? I don't think it's a big deal at all. And especially as the 4 seed, where you have to play the play-in game on the road. If you win that, you still play another road game. Like, they'll have to win 4 road games in a row. And this team has not been able to win on the road all year long. So sure, I hope everyone had a good time celebrating that playoff, clincher the other night for half a second. But I mean, if I'm being honest, I think they're kind of cooked. Like, I don't see this team capable of stringing out 4 straight wins on the road.
Emily, you
hard to be negative, but I'm just being honest though.
Emily, you and I get to talk to head coach Mike Taylor after every game on the Sea Bears post game. We've watched a lot of the Sea Bears, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster too, right? Like, there's clearly been the biggest one was the Teddy Allen release, which kind of pulled the pin on everything, right? Then Byron gets released and everything else. But it did seem like on the game against Calgary, the second game, it seemed like they had control. Like, everything was going well until it wasn't. They had that good start, and then Calgary battles back, and then you get a little bit of a lead going into target time, and then Calgary did to you what you normally do to other teams in Winnipeg. Do you feel the road to the championship weekend is a road that might be unfortunately unattainable, or is this something that playoffs are a new season, new page, and maybe you find your winning ways on the road?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably lean on the side more towards Taylor that it's not going to happen, if I'm being 100%. But again, it's one game, right? It's single knockout. There's no series here in the playoffs, so anything truly can happen. But at this point, when you're 1-8 on the road, like that 100% is in the back of your mind. Like maybe after a couple games, like okay, whatever, we're not doing well on the road, but to be 1-8 on the road, um, yeah, it's kind of psyching yourself out at this point. Like you have it always in the back of your mind that you want to play well on the road, and then when you don't, it's kind of like, oh, here we go again. But their last game was their best on the road that they've had, even though it's still a loss. So I give them a. Okay, Taylor, what would you say percentage? You're saying like 100% it's not happening. They're not. They're
Uh,
not making it to championship weekends.
there's always a chance. Like you said, it's, one game knockout. This is kind of a crazy, unpredictable league, so anything could happen. But I'd probably give them a 5% chance.
Right. I'd give them like a 20%
Okay.
chance.
Fair. Okay, Taylor, you've been optimist this season, weirdly. So today
Very
I'm going to
weirdly.
be optimist. Here's the thing. I think with this, you're right, Emily. It does toy your mind. And I think, though, when you have that kind of mentality and you overcome that hurdle just based on everything that went in, where it's like, oh man, we finally did it. So if you can win, I don't even think this Edmonton game's the one, but you're going into the play-in game. It's either going to be Edmonton or Calgary. There's still a three-way seeding to figure out, but Vancouver with a win just seals the West. So that Vancouver's out of the picture for Winnipeg. Head coach Mike Taylor believes it's going to be Calgary. Now, Calgary and Edmonton have played each other 4 times. So depending on how their last game goes, if Edmonton beats Winnipeg and Calgary loses, then Edmonton would move into second. Calgary would drop back, vice versa, if it goes the other way. But you've played these teams before, right? You would have played Calgary twice in the last 3 games before going in, and Edmonton the very last game. Both of those are the last 2 games on the road. So you had 2 games on the road. You've been in these venues. You've got a little familiarity with rosters and everything else, which is something that doesn't happen a lot in this league with the turnover. So you actually do have a bit of a blueprint here of what worked and what didn't work. So to Emily's point, you have that one game you have to win. If you can just win that first game, right? Edmonton did it to Winnipeg last year in Winnipeg. If you can return the favor if it's Edmonton, or do that to Calgary if it's Calgary, all of a sudden I think the confidence and belief comes in a rush because you finally got over the hump. That was the thing that was holding you back all season, and you finally proved you can do it. And then I wonder what kind of momentum you can build on that, where suddenly that belief is through the roof, knowing you're not going home. So there's no more dependency on, we lost this one, but we're going home for a game, so we'll make that win up at home, right? So I'm going to give it a slightly higher chance, not much higher, but I'm going to go 37% that
30,
they can do this.
37%.
37.6%, if we're being
that's pretty
very
high.
detailed.
Out of 4 teams,
I think so
in the
too.
West, that's I think you're being a little too
to get
optimistic.
to championship. To get to championship weekend, this I'm saying getting to Montreal. So getting to the conference final. Yeah. This isn't for championship. I don't even want to think championship at this point. To me, it's just get to championship weekend. You have 2 games to win. If you can win those 2 games, get to championship weekend, anything happens, because at that point, everything's neutralized, right? Montreal's in the East. They've got the host. Everybody's traveled for that game. Everybody's staying at a hotel. There's no advantages in that sense. And there's a little more hype around it because you're in the championship weekend. But if they can win that one game, that second game to me becomes a lot more winnable. And I would also put maybe a little bit of pressure on the team, whoever's playing Winnipeg, because now they found that recipe that they weren't able to find all season at the right time. But that said, very long shot. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see where it goes from there. But I mean, for looking at this team too, I mean, okay, they lose on the road. That's something that we've known, but it's just like, why? Right? Like even that last game against Calgary, it seemed that Winnipeg was competing, doing everything right. Calgary's a really good team, but at some point, this is a good team too. Winnipeg is a good team as well, but it just seemed in certain ways like they get outmatched, right? Whether it's inside, Edmonton's a strong team. They move the ball really well, and I think Calgary might even be better. Just the way we saw them play and how quickly they move the ball. I mean, what are some of the things that they have to fix that you guys are seeing, I guess, before they go on the road? Emily, we'll start with you. What do you think is the biggest issue? I mean, we talked about rebounding, we've talked about turnovers, but what is one key thing that really helps turn everything around before you can start working on those smaller details.
Yeah, I don't know if I mean, it's not necessarily the player's responsibility, but just the rotations of this team have drove me insane the entire season. And from a player perspective, I don't understand how you can get any type of rhythm if your minutes are fluctuating so much from game to game. So, you usually have your starting five tried and true that you know is going to be starting the game. You have your dedicated sixth man. And then from there, I feel like 7 to 9 also know their role. And then you have, some fringe players on the end that could play depending on situations, foul trouble, things like that. So when minutes are like going all over the place, it's difficult to get in a rhythm and stay ready. Again, it's the end of the season, so I don't see that entirely changing, right? But whoever is in on the floor at the same time needs to figure out a way to work together, because I don't know how much time everybody has spent getting actual minutes on the court in like game situations with each other, because there's so many lineups, there's injuries, right? There's whatever, the transactions that have happened with the team are done, but um, you're constantly trying to like find that chemistry. And if one person's not having a good game, it's like, how do you step up next? So I think just like locking in like mentally on the awareness of who's on the court, who do you need to capitalize on right now, and then being able to execute that. So I think it's going to be an execution piece offensively.
And Taylor?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Emily. I mean, there's a handful of guys on this team where it's like, okay, is this guy going to play 7 minutes tonight or 25 minutes tonight? Like, it's so unpredictable. Always looking at the box score at the end of the game, like, oh my goodness, like this guy was playing way less minutes last week, or this guy was playing way more minutes last week. So it has been very unpredictable. I mean, there has been so much roster turnover, so that has played a part. But you're right; it has not been consistent enough. Like, we watch every single game, and still going into every game, it's like, okay, I have no idea who's going to be playing how many minutes and whatever. So that's a really good point. But who cares what I think? We have a pro basketball player on the show.
It's
Emily, I'm just curious. Like,
okay. You can still add your
no,
opinion.
I don't know what I'm talking about, anyways. Uh, Emily, have you ever been on a team that had so much roster turnover in a season like the Sea Bears did, and like just what does that do to a team on and off the floor, especially when a person like Teddy Allen, the guy who's supposed to be the star of the team, gets booted off the team midway through the year. They're openly saying this guy's a bad teammate. I mean, that's a pretty crazy example, but have you ever experienced anything even remotely close to what the Sea Bears have gone through this summer?
No, I have not experienced anything remotely close to that. I've had a couple, teammates who have joined like midway through seasons before when I've been playing, in different professional leagues. And that in itself it's a difficult situation to try to integrate people. And I have joined actually a couple teams myself later in the season and tried to, integrate myself right before playoffs. So it's hard. There's a lot of personalities at play, and then you like multiply that by like five, with all the different changes they've had. And it's one thing to try to just to get to know everybody, to just learn everybody's names, like, and then to learn a new playbook, and then from learning your new playbook to then how you're going to play with your teammates, and where does my teammate like the ball the best? Where are they going to excel and score? How do they like to be passed the ball? How do they communicate with me on the court? Can I trust them that they're behind me and they're going to talk to me when I'm in help side, so I know where to go? Those types of things. So it's those small little details that help you collectively like work as one on the court, and not just 1v1 with five guys, but it's like five versus the other team.
I also think there's a little bit of confusion with some players when it comes to roles, right? In terms of, and not only roles, but playing time. A lot of these guys, I think, compared to last year, you look at last year's roster, a lot of young guys, a lot of guys that are making their, not their professional debuts, maybe per se, but like it might be their second pro season, or they were coming off their first pro season and going into their first summer pro season, whatever. So I think last year there was a lot more, I'm trying to earn something, trying to prove myself, whatever it is. And I'm not saying that's not the case here. I think there's just guys now that have expectations in terms of they played overseas or they played for other CBL teams where they've had larger roles or more minutes or whatever the case may be. And I think they came in here thinking, well, that's what I'm coming in for. And then you see them not maybe playing that role. I mean, there's a number of players that you look at. I mean, Alex Campbell, for one, he's starting, but here's a guy who was a team MVP with the Bandits. He's won championships, very familiar with this league, and a defensive lockdown guy. Some games he's playing a lot, other games he's playing quite less. Chad Posthumous, another guy that, he's last year we saw his playing time go down a little bit from the start, and then he had his, I think he sat out a game last year too. This year, I thought he was very efficient all season. He'd play 6-7 minutes, but he'd be scoring at a high rate, all things considered, and rebounding and things like that. Jared Ogambemi Jackson, played 9 years overseas before this, star, and he's coming off the bench. I don't know how UC is to that. And he plays really well off the bench, but he's doing a lot of his work in a concentrated amount of time. Like, he's rarely playing more than 20 minutes, right, in a game. So, and here's a guy that, is fast. It does take care of his body. So, but you have a very clogged guard situation, right? Especially with Justin Wright Foreman, who was not there at the start, right? When they started the season, it was Teddy Allen, which made a lot more sense. But now you've got a little bit more of they're two different players for sure. And we've seen them share the floor at the same time, but they're not that different, right? In terms of both of them can carry the ball, create plays and things like that. So I don't know how much of that plays a factor, but for you, Emily, like, if you're going into a team, right, you come in like, these are my strengths. I'm Emily Potter. I've been doing this for a decade. People know what I do. And you go in and it's like, oh, okay, so I've been brought here to do this. Have you ever had a situation like that where you're kind of like, what exactly is my role? And what kind of, if you did go through that, how does that play in the psyche when it comes to the time you're on the court?
Yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah, if you have a super vet dominant roster and everyone, has that experience in a starting role, obviously everybody wants to start. There's not enough minutes to go around to make everybody happy. And at the end of the day, as a coach, not everybody's going to be happy. That's just the fact of the matter with every single team that people need to realize. Like, if you're playing 5 minutes, you want 10. If you're playing 25, you want 30. But for myself, yeah, sometimes it's kind of like, well, this doesn't make any sense. You bring me into a team, let's say, like, I'm a post player. You bring me into a team and you tell me you don't want me to post up. Well, then why did you sign? Did you watch my game tape? Why did you sign me? And what did you see in that film that made you be like, oh, I want you on my team? And then you're not going to use me to my strengths or to the best of my ability. Using to strengths is, one aspect of it, but like, to the best of my abilities. Like, okay, I could give you my best. And I think when I give you my best, let's say I deserve, for example, 25 minutes. If you're not giving me those 25 minutes, I might feel like it's a bit of a disservice to me, especially if in practice I feel like I am doing better than the people that are playing ahead of me. That's how I always look at it, is like, okay, until you can show in practice that you are the better player day in and day out, and you are competing and you are consistently scoring in practice, doing the correct reads in practice, then I think you can confidently say, I deserve that playing time. And then if there's a discrepancy with your role on the court, like, then you need to figure out what else is going on. Because to me, if you are showing that you are the better player on the court consistently, there's no reason why your minutes should not reflect that.
Yeah. And it's funny, right? Because then we see in one hand, like, Stefan Ingo getting a lot of time, and he just came in and, we talked about this last week, Taylor.
He was coaching 2 weeks ago, and now he's playing 20 minutes a night for these guys.
Yeah, he basically came out of accounting and just stepped on the court and started having a huge accounting from another firm, and comes in and starts playing an all-star.
It's so interesting because, other post players that have left the team, aka Shane, that would be probably what he wanted out of his role, was to get those minutes that he didn't really get all season long. You sign a new player and he gets those minutes. So maybe it's just like a better fit. Stefan's doing things that you felt like another player couldn't, defensively or offensively, or just he had a better understanding of his role, which let him grow in his role in 2 days' time. But it's interesting.
Well, the thing with Stefan that surprised me, I didn't honestly, like, when I saw the signing, I thought, okay, like, just a guy that'll step in behind, Chad and Noah. But then he gets this, like, a ton of play. I think he had 20 something minutes yesterday against Calgary, but he's been very effective. And we said it doesn't always turn into points, but the block shots, the rebounds, like, that first game against Calgary was the game for me where I was like, wow, like, he's a big reason why this team won, because late in the game he tracked down 2 offensive rebounds on absolutely just botched possessions, right? Should have been a turnover. And then he just finds his way to the ball through three surge players, finds Mason or whoever, and gets the hockey assist, right? Doesn't pop up on the score sheet, but is the reason they score. So he's been doing some really good things. He's got some length, right? He's got a long reach. He's lanky. He's not as big as Shane. Maybe a little quicker, with closeouts and switching on the pick and rolls and things like that. But no, he's been a good addition. But this is a team that does play small, so he's a smaller big man, right? And it's been nice. But yeah, you're right. It's great to have those people that are putting in the small details, Mason Bercier as well. But at the end of the day, it's like those guys are supposed to elevate everybody else. Justin Wright Foreman is obviously your scorer. He's been very consistent. I think he's had a couple of off games, that last game against Calgary being one. But Emmanuel Acott being out has been tough as well, right? There's your kind of cemented secondary scorer. Not having him in the lineup is huge. He's a guy that can, guard guards, but also play with bigger players. And I think that'd be a great matchup for him with Calgary, actually. I think of all the teams where Emmanuel Acott matches up best, Calgary might be it, just because they've got fast, big guards and he can play that style of play. So, we'll have to put that in there too. They won without him, but then they lost without him. So what's the key if he's there? Is that the difference against Calgary? And I think maybe it is. I don't know, right? We'll have to see if that pans out. He's been out with a groin injury, so he's been day to day. He's not on the trip, so I don't think he'll be playing against Edmonton. So he should be good to go. That's the hope anyway for playoffs, and that would change everything. So before we move on to the Emily Potter fun stuff, this game here. So they have one game left against Edmonton on Monday. Doesn't mean anything for Winnipeg. Win or lose, nothing changes. Edmonton, all depends on how the rest of the weekend pans out. They could be playing for positioning. How do you see this game? We talked to Mike Taylor on the post game, and he said we're already looking past this game. They're pretty sure they're playing Calgary, so he's looking to Calgary. Now, how do you take this game as a coach or even as a player? What is the approach here? What is going to allow you to end on a good note? Not even talking about win-loss, because obviously a win would be the best note. But what do you do in this game knowing that nothing changes and it's your final tune-up before a much longer or extended road trip with the playoffs?
That's what he said.
Or Taylor, sorry.
Sorry, I'm just going to cut everyone off here. That's what he said. He said we're already looking past that game.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wow,
Crazy. I thought that was
okay.
crazy.
Mike O'Shea, Bombers head coach, would never say something like that in a gazillion years. So I just find that very, very interesting that he would say that.
It's the tale of two Mikes.
Yes.
No Mike Taylor is not Mike O'Shea, and Mike O'Shea is not Mike Taylor, but both good coaches in their own right. But yeah, no, he did say that. Yeah, I honestly, I'm not that surprised. I get it from the football mentality mostly. I can see that from a Mike O'Shea standpoint. But for this one, I kind of agree with him. It's not in terms of looking past it. I don't think he means we're not preparing for this game. I think they're just preparing for this game as, I want to say, a glorified practice. This is what the Celtics did, right? And I know you guys hate hearing me talk about the Celtics, but that was one of the things Joe Mazzulla was doing when they had clinched. He's like, we're trying to create playoff scenarios, anyways, so we're staying sharp. But
Emily,
that's what I think he's doing here.
Emily,
too.
how would you want to approach this game as a player?
But that's exactly what I think is a good idea.
We just cut Joey off when he talks Celtics. So, Emily, how would you, as a player, going into a meaningless game, how would you want to approach it as a player? Would you be like, I'm cool, just chilling on the bench, or what do you think the right way would be to approach it?
Right. I think it's pretty wild to look past the game, in my opinion, even if you know who you're playing. It's another opportunity to face a team, work on everything that you need to work on as a team, work on your boxing out, work on moving the ball offensively, work on making good decisions as a team and playing the way that coach wants you to play and a way that's going to be successful for you. So yeah, I thought that was a bit of a wild take. I mean, there is no pressure in the game, which I think might be helpful for the Sea Bears, because maybe that pressure of having to win on the road has, had them crack a little bit, but it's hey, you have no pressure to win this game. Doesn't matter. You don't need to. But I would still honestly scout this game as normal and just, put an emphasis on just trying to continue to build the habits that you've been building. And if you do that, that's going to help you for the next game. I don't think you need to do everything or even build in certain pieces of your offense to tailor towards Calgary because you think you're going to play them next. Like, okay, we're going to practice switching against Edmonton, which doesn't make sense, but we want to switch against Calgary on defense, so we're going to do it anyway. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So I think if you, yeah, just focus on those small spurts that you've had that have been great and just try to continue that into Edmonton game, I think you still put 100% focus on this game.
Anything for you to contribute, Taylor?
I never have anything to contribute, so we can move on. But no, I think this team, it probably wouldn't be a terrible thing to go out and get a win right
Yeah.
before the playoffs. I mean, you don't want to go in the playoffs with a losing record, losing a couple in a row. So meaningless or not, I think just getting a win under the belt, feeling good going into the playoffs, I think that could benefit them for sure. But I don't think you play these guys 40 minutes and run them into the ground, which they won't obviously.
Of
But
course.
yeah, I think a win
Yeah.
probably wouldn't be a terrible thing for these guys at this point.
I think a win, you're right. Like the win would be huge. I just don't think you want to put too much pressure because what if you lose that one too, right? Like the last thing you want is just demolish the confidence of we won one
Same.
road game the whole year. I think like when he says look past it, I'm reading it a little differently. I don't think he's looking past the game per se. I think he's just trying to take that pressure off of like this game is me. We have to win in the playoffs. So you can win this last road game and then lose the next one, and it means absolutely nothing, right? I think it's you use
Yeah.
it as you're playing a really good team, a team you might even be playing in the playoffs. But you hear these teams, and it's not just the Sea Bears. This is every team because of the turnover and things like that. They all say we have to focus on our team. So I think that's all it is. It's like, yeah, we're playing Edmonton. They're probably going to do the scouting and things like that. But I think they're just this is a time that if you don't nail everything down for the next game, this is your last chance. You know, you've got this opportunity where you're not playing for anything that you can take these liberties in whatever way you want. So take advantage of it. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes. That game's on Monday. The playoffs start on Friday. So yeah, next Friday. And we still don't know who it's going to be, but they will be likely Calgary or Edmonton in that one. But Emily, it's this is great having you on the show. So let's talk about you a little bit and
Well, no.
your basketball background. So you grew up as a hotshot here in Winnipeg. Saw you that picture that you posted the other day on Instagram where you're holding a bunch of trophies at what 18 years old. So
Yeah, grade 12. Many, many moons ago.
so you look at that though. Just I want to go all the way back. You know, you're playing basketball in high school. When did you figure out that you might be able to make a career out of this? And how do you find yourself going to Utah for college?
Let's take a trip down memory lane. I always wanted to play D1. I used to watch March Madness with my dad when I was little. But when I got to high school, got to about grade 9, that's when I was like, I think I want to play pro after too. And at that point, it was kind of just like a far off, type of dream. And I thought, okay, I have to work these next, 4 years to figure out if I can make it D1. But yeah, I just really fell in love with the game and found myself going to Utah. They recruited me by coming to watch like a Team Canada training camp. It was like 16U team or 17U team, that coaches watching. And they, back in the day, sent me a letter in the mail. That's how we all, actually, I think they still do that. Whatever. Send you letters in the mail, like recruiting letters, that sort of thing. And then from there, you can respond, email them, whatever, schedule phone calls. And they had a lot of Canadians on their team. Hence why, they're at the, Team Canada tryouts, always looking for the next Canadian coming up. And they had at least like one Canadian on their team every year since like the 90s. So when I committed there was 3 Canadians with me on my team that those first couple years. So that was fantastic. Felt like a little home away from home. And I'd seen other players have super successful careers with Team Canada after playing for Utah. And like that's what I wanted to emulate. So I was like, okay, I've seen them do it. I've seen the path. So I'm going to try to follow that path.
Nice.
I respect you a lot for having that dream of wanting to play pro just after grade 9 because if you go back to that time, like before you, Emily, I can't think. I'm sure there was someone, and I'm forgetting them, but I can't think of someone from Winnipeg, a female basketball player from Winnipeg that played NCAA basketball. We had a couple play pro in overseas and whatever, but like I can't. Before you, like who was the Winnipegger female that played NCAA hoops? Like I can't
Yeah,
think
who
of
did you
anyone.
look up to? Was there anyone like locally?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely looked up to like the U of M women's players, like Michelle Sung, Sarah Lundgren. They were playing kind of when I was younger. I started in grade seven as part of the Junior Bisons program, and they had a really big like girls program back then. And they would help out with teams, help out in practices and training. So I was like, I saw those women to look up to. Um, and I thought they were the coolest thing, right? Because that was the only person I had in my community to kind of watch and look up to. Another like big name that went to Glen Lawn is Yadley. She played at Oregon, I do believe, and she won a couple provincial championships with Mr. K, Brian Kornberger, and she actually helped out our team a little bit when I was in high school. So she, played NCAA Division One. I don't know if she played pro or not. I can't remember, but yeah, she wasn't somebody that was like in my direct, like, I guess, circle when I was growing up. She was kind of like past that, her time of basketball at that point. But she, came back and gave back her time to try to help our team and especially help me because she was also a post player.
Nice. When you're looking at, so you go to play NCAA, you've been on the national team, you were just training with them, and you're the only, for a long time, you're the only Manitoba. I know Naya was with you recently, but when you're going through those years where, it's Team Canada and there's all these girls from Ontario and probably BC and Quebec, and you're the lone Manitoban and probably oftentimes the lone Manitoban and prairie person outside of Alberta that's playing. I mean, does it ever sink in, like, just the accomplishment there? Is it ever intimidating? Because did you ever think of that? It's like, the odds are so small coming out of Winnipeg and playing for the national team and getting all these opportunities, and here you are doing it.
Yeah, I think I take a really big sense of pride in being from Manitoba and trying to be a good advocate like for our province. I don't know if I think about it as like a huge accomplishment or anything, but I love being from the city and I love this city. And honestly, sometimes my teammates get on me and try to, make jokes about Winnipeg. And I'm like, we're going to have a training camp and a game here one day. We're going to make it happen. So you guys are all going to eat your words because I love Winnipeg. Um, and yeah, I just want to continue to help the game grow in the province. And I have seen it from like my time when I was, in grade seven, just starting basketball to now when I look at all the different club programs there are in the city, all the different opportunities that people have, like that the girls have coming up, like it's a lot more than I had. So I mean, I feel like we're on the right path. Like the game is growing. So I just want to continue to see that happen.
So, Emily, as you know, you're the first and only Manitoban to ever sign a WNBA contract. You spent a training camp with the Seattle Storm. What's your favorite story from that training camp? I think you were, what, only like 22, 23. Seattle, they had some legends on that team. Here you are, this Winnipegger walking into there. Just, do you have a favorite story or a memory from that time in Seattle?
Yeah, that was a crazy experience. It was right after college. So yeah, I think I was like 21, 22, 22. Yeah, and as my first taste of like a pro experience, it was fantastic. And like there's a couple of stories that stick out in my mind, but that year actually Seattle ended up going on to win the championship and they had Sue Bird and Brianna Stewart on their team. And I remember one time in practice, Sue Bird was like trying to explain something to me and she's like, yeah, Em, like do this, this, and this. And I was like Sue Bird just, called me by my first name and we're just having a casual conversation. She's trying to help me out here on the court. So that was a super cool moment because she is such a legend of the game.
That's so cool. Sue Bird knows Emily Potter. That
She probably forgot me by
that doesn't
now, but
matter.
she at one point she
I'd put it on
did.
my
At one point
resume.
she
Sue
did.
Bird called me by my first name and explained something to me as an equal. That'd be on my resume for
That's
sure.
funny.
So you have the experience through that, but you've had an illustrious playing career professionally overseas. I mean, you played like where? Australia, Greece,
Czech Republic?
number of places. What's that?
Czech Republic as well.
Czech Republic. So
Yeah.
you look at all these places you've been and the opportunities that were like that you were able to attain through basketball. What's been your favorite place, I guess? Is there a spot to you that or maybe even just like the lifestyle that's been really cool that you weren't expecting playing professionally overseas for so long?
Yeah, it's hard because I feel like every country that I've lived in and traveled to has been really different experiences and taught me a lot of different things along the way. Like I think back to when I first started playing, a couple years in Czech Republic, and I'm like, wow, I'm like not even the same person I was back then. And that was like 2019, 2020. So as I get more into my career, I think I do enjoy it more and more because I have like a better balance and just a better understanding of what the heck I'm doing. So it's really a toss up between Australia and Greece, and those are the last 2 years that I've played. Right? I mean, I love being by the beach. This is what I've learned. I love being near the water. Um, who can complain with that? And nice weather. Didn't have to deal with the winter for a few years. And yeah, just they were different lifestyles. I really do like the European lifestyle though, and just being able to walk everywhere, go to a cute cafe, experience a different culture, different food. So yeah, it's very hard to choose between Greece and Australia, but I love them both.
And you're a free agent right now? Is that right? I think I saw Perth. Someone tweeted that you're not going back to Perth. Am I?
No, I'm not going back to Perth. I have, some contract news coming, but cannot release that information. Hopefully in a
Give us
few
the headline.
weeks,
You'll
everything
take
will
Target
be
Score Weekly to a
finalized.
whole new level, Emily. If we get the scoop here of where you're playing next year.
You get the scoop.
Yeah.
I am going back to Europe,
Okay,
Okay.
well, there.
but
That's
That's
a
half a scoop.
semi scoop. Semi
Yeah.
scoop. We got it.
semi scoop.
Semi.
Going back to Europe, things will be
Okay.
finalized in the coming
Okay.
weeks.
Okay.
Well,
Mhm.
sorry.
Sorry,
I
Taylor.
saw a question about being a free agent as like a pro basketball player playing overseas. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you don't follow every single one of these countries that have a pro league, but like there are so many places that do. And when they reach out to you, I mean, like it must be kind of an overwhelming process because I mean, you probably didn't grow up watching Czech Republic pro basketball and whatever, right?
Right.
So when these countries are reaching out to you, like how do you kind of vet them out and figure out like what places are worth going to and what's not worth going to? And yeah, money's important, but there's more to it than that too, right? And you hear lots of horror stories, right, of people who play pro basketball, pro volleyball, pro hockey overseas, getting somewhere and it's not what they were told it was going to be and stuff. So just kind of take us through that process. I'd imagine it could be pretty overwhelming, exciting, and stressful all in one.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. It's not like a college, official visit where you get to go and see what you're walking into. Usually it's like, hey, you have a couple phone calls maybe, and then you hop on a plane and arrive in a place you've never been in your life, and a random stranger picks you up. So it's pretty crazy. You have to have a lot of trust in the process. And yeah, sometimes you don't know if what you're going into could be better or worse than it was, the previous year, whatever team you were just on. So the change in that sense can be scary. I have stayed, and I stayed in the Czech Republic for 2 years. I stayed in Greece for 2 years because I did like that somewhat like sense of familiarity. That like, okay, at least I know this league. I know kind of like what I'm getting myself into. Um, but yeah, it could be even better than you're expecting as well. The basketball community is fantastic overseas. And I always tell players, like, if you have questions about a team or a league, literally reach out to players that have just played there. Send them a message on social media. Everyone's going to respond to you. They're going to let you know, honestly, um, things that you should know about the club, about the coach, um, and give your advice. And I've done that for players too, and I'm 100% honest. I'm like, nope, I wouldn't do it. If I was you, I wouldn't do it. This is what happened to me, X, Y, and Z, and take with that what you will. It's still up to you, right? But I just feel like the more knowledge you have, that's power. So I think as a community overseas, we need to, yeah, like stick together. So I always advocate and just tell other players if they ask me that, I'm like, ask somebody from that team specifically. As far as like weeding out things, I mean, I have a great agent, and essentially like we'll have a conversation after every season, and it's kind of like, okay, this is what I'm looking for, this is the money I'm looking for. So they can go out and speak to teams on my behalf. And if the money's not at a certain level, I'm like, don't even present that option to me. Like they talk to me, they get to know me as a person, they kind of know what I'm looking for, what my goals are in basketball. And if they have a team, somebody in, I don't know, Timbuktu offering $200, I'm not going to take it. Like, so they like can just kind of keep that stress off of me by them doing the bit of the leg work, right? And figuring out a spot that they think would be good for me, bring those options to me, and then I can evaluate from there, have some phone calls with the coaches if they want to, explore a little bit about the club, the league, that sort of thing.
Well, there goes my dream of buying an Emily Potter Timbuktu Titans jersey.
Timbuktu Titans.
Probably pay well if I bought the jersey, it would have covered your cost probably at $200. That'd been great. But Not going to
Yeah,
happen.
right.
So if you look ahead, though, like after your playing career, and what does life after playing basketball look like for Emily Potter? Do you think you stay in the game? Do you think you stay in Winnipeg? Or have you found places along your travels that have been options maybe to live full time when you're done?
Yeah, it's very hard. It is inching closer and closer to that retirement date. I give myself 4 years right now, okay? I give myself a 4-year expiry time right now, but that could always change. I always just try to take it kind of like one season at a time. So I don't think this next season will be my last, but again, you never know where life can take you. So I am getting to that point where I am thinking more and more about life after basketball, and I think as a female basketball player, that's always something you have to think about because the money's not the same. Um, and I feel like in college, there's not as many women's basketball players that are like, yeah, I want to go pro. I want to make this my career. So we are pretty focused on like, okay, what degree do we want? And what do we think our career path is? I just feel like we spend a little bit more time on that. No offense to the men. Um, but I, did my undergrad in university, kind of took my first year playing overseas to just like chill, and I realize you do have a ton of downtime when you're overseas. So I think it's like a super unique opportunity where it's like, yes, I'm still making money by playing basketball, but besides practice every day, like I do have those other hours in the day that I can use to explore other options of what interests me. And I don't have to worry about not making money on it because I already have a job. So I have that time and the financial freedom at this point to explore, which I love. So I spent like 3 years doing my master's when I was overseas part time. I'm very thankful
Yeah,
that's
that's
gone. So I
crazy.
finished that
While
like a
playing
year
pro
ago.
basketball, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, so I finished that a year ago. Yeah, like last spring. So very thankful to be done that. And then I've been kind of like testing the waters in that regard. I did my master's in psychology, if more of like the mental performance coach or the mental side of the game is something that would be, of interest to me. Because it's something I feel like that has helped me greatly that I think could benefit a lot of athletes coming up right now. And then, of course, was able to work with the Sea Bears this summer and do the post game show with this random guy named Joey.
My
And
condolences.
it's been a super.
That must have been really hard. I know what it's
I
like
hate
to
this
host a
episode. This
show.
Thank
episode's the
you.
worst.
It's so
Thank
refreshing
you.
having someone that knows what it's like to host a show with Joey. It's not easy. So I
We
hope you're
are,
managing okay.
yeah, we can form our own group,
Yes,
our support
yes,
group,
much needed for sure.
emotional support group.
The
Yes.
Joey co-host support group. Yeah. All right. Well, that's all
Yeah,
the time we
so
have. No, I'm just kidding.
that's been like super unexpected and super excited. Like the president of the team, I met with him and yeah, it was super cool to discuss that and be able to be a part of it, even with, Team Canada training that usually takes up a lot of my summer, be able to work around that. And when people ask me about it, I'm like, honestly, like, it's a great job. I get to talk about basketball. Like, I feel like I could talk about basketball forever. And sometimes people are probably like, all right, stop, let's talk about something else. So I get to get it all out when I talk about the Sea Bears. And then maybe I can stop doing it about everything else. But no, it is super cool and super fun. And I think that the sport needs more women talking about sports. I feel like right now is our time for women in sports. We're seeing a big boom in a ton of different leagues. The NWSL in the States, WNBA in the States. They're getting a pro soccer league here in Canada. We're getting a WNBA team in Toronto in a couple years. So it's like, this is the time. So I feel very empowered and supported to be able to chase after whatever dream I have in sports, whether it continues to be something, in the broadcast area, something more like the mental side of the game, or even coaching if I decide to go down that route. So I feel like the world is my oyster and I could take it any which way I want. And I don't know exactly which way I should take it, but I feel like I have a few more summers and a few more years to kind of continue to explore and figure it
Well,
out.
I do feel like with your multitasking, you're probably able to do more than one at once. If calling in the middle of the night or early morning to come in on a Sea Bears game at like 3 a.m. wherever you were, and then calling in for the post game show, and then still doing your masters. I mean, I think you could do a little bit of everything in this day and age, but it's going to be exciting either way, right? Like it's kind of cool. It's a new beginning in that sense, which is going to be a lot of fun. But I'm sure you'll miss playing when that's over. But you still have years left, Emily, so we're not going to jump the gun there. Taylor, is it time?
I just have one more question.
Oh.
Then it could be time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Let it go.
But
It's
you were
fine.
talking about how
Yeah.
women's sports is growing and whatnot, and women's basketball, especially like this past year or two, it's exploding, right? And a big reason for that,
Mhm.
for whatever reason, is Caitlin Clark. So I'm curious what your
I
opinion.
knew it was
Yeah,
coming.
well,
I knew it
I'm
was
just curious
coming.
what your opinion is on that. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pros to what the Caitlin Clark circus has caused and done for the sport. But then it's also like, why is everyone just focusing on her and putting the weight of the world on her shoulders? And I mean, you watch a media scrum with her. There's like 50 reporters in her face. It's like, man, I feel kind of bad for her. Like she's got a lot of pressure on her and whatnot. So, just kind of general, what are your thoughts on this whole Caitlin Clark whole craziness and what it's done for women's basketball, just kind of in general?
Yeah, first of all, she handles the pressure in the media extremely well. She's very poised and gracious, and I just think she does a fantastic job handling all of that. I don't know how players do, like to that magnitude. She does a fantastic job of that. I think it's a little bit of a perfect storm when it comes to her. Of she garnered a lot of attention at Iowa. They ended up getting a lot of fans. She is from Iowa. So she decided to stay home for university and then started hitting some crazy shots that were just like perfect to go viral. So, and her team ended up, being successful enough to be able to get, really far in the NCAA tournament. So, yeah, just a perfect storm of being the kind of entertainment and basketball talent that people wanted to see at that time. And yeah, it just exploded. It was kind of right after, there was a lot of discrepancies that were shown and kind of highlighted between the men's and women's basketball tournament. It's honestly only been a couple years, maybe about 4 years now, that um, March Madness has been used. That branding has been used for the women's tournament. Before, it was literally just like women's NCAA tournament. They didn't even have the March Madness branding. That was only for the men. So during COVID, they had this little dinky weight room, right? And you had Sedona Prince, who used to play for Oregon, highlight the fact that they had a rack of dumbbells where the
Yeah.
men had a giant weight
That's
room.
what blew it up to me.
And
Like that's like the turning
yeah,
point.
yeah. So just kind of having eyes on things makes a difference. And I've always said that the WNBA does a horrible, horrible job of marketing. And especially when you're trying to grow something, if you really have to like make people search for something, they're not going to. It needs to be readily available. And if you give it a platform, it will do well. I understand that that takes money to some extent to first get it out there, but you have to spend money to make money. And people like to talk shit about the WNBA and that it doesn't make any money, that NBA fully supports it. I'm like, you've never actually given it an actual like try. Like you've never actually invested what you need to invest to try to make it something successful. And I think that's now what we're finally seeing. Like, give it a platform and watch it, like, just blow up, which it has.
Yeah, and then Caitlin Clark, I think the other thing that kind of put it over was taking the record, like the all-time scoring record, men's or women's,
Oh,
over Pete Maravich was huge. But even the
yeah.
WNBA, yeah, like how many orange sweaters do you see? Like my wife was searching far and wide for this thing. She finally got one, but it's like I've never seen a league so marketable like as they are right now. Like you don't see people buying NBA,
Yeah.
MLB shirts, at least not in the volume you see WNBA. But no, those are all great points. Like the
Yeah, I remember like Sabrina just got into the league a couple years ago, and she like before Caitlin, like she was a really big deal, right, at Oregon, and she had she had like scoring record for a little bit. She had a triple double
Mhm.
record, right? She was very good and gets drafted, and people can't even find her jersey to
Mhm.
buy. It's not even there
Crazy.
online. So you're telling me the market, like people want it and they can't freaking find it. The WNBA website has the name spelled incorrectly. They can't update and get enough merch to people who want it. So I'm like, the demand has been there. You just need
And
to
that's the other thing
get
too.
it
When you get
going.
like a huge boost like this, like sometimes it's hard to keep up, like in terms of like the demands there, but you can't keep up with the demand. One of the things I like that
Yeah.
the commissioner said in an interview, because someone had brought up like the unfair pay, like the discrepancy between men and women. And she's like, I appreciate the conversation, but she's like, the league's also only whatever 25 years old. She's like, so if you go
Yeah.
back to when the NBA was 25, we're doing probably a lot better than they were, and look where they are now, kind of thing. So I did like that kind of all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit here. It's not going to be an overnight shift. Like, yes, we're in a boom, but we have to move up and everything else. So I think they have a good leadership in that sense, just based on the few interviews I saw, which I only saw because of, everything blowing up, right? So that's been good. Great question, Taylor. That was a good time to disrupt the target time. But do you think it's time now?
Now it's time.
It's time for target time. Target time is the longest rapid fire you're ever going to experience. And I have 5 questions. Taylor has 5 questions. We go back and forth. Odds are it won't be a one-word answer. And if it is, we're probably going to ask for more. So that's why, kind of like target time, there's no time limit. All right, Taylor, you asked the last question, so I'll start. Emily, the best player you've ever gone head-to-head with?
Brianna Stewart.
Was that when you were at the Sonics camp or Storm camp? Sorry.
Sonics. Yeah, Storm camp, and also for U19 Worlds, she was on that Team USA. Yeah, so that was 2013.
How'd she do against you?
I remember that was the first time I ever saw her in person, and she had the longest arms I swear I'd ever seen. She's a little bit shorter than I am, but these long arms, like, that are just perfect for basketball. So
Nice.
Crazy. Bring back the Sonics, by the way.
Yes.
Come on. Seattle needs an NBA team. My first target time question, Emily. This is a 2-part question. The first one is a setup for the rest of the question. What's your favorite food? I need to know this information.
Dill pickles.
Dill pickles.
Nice.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a proposal for you. The Utah Utes women's basketball team wins the national title, but you can never, ever, ever eat dill pickles ever again for the rest of your life. Deal or no?
I'm not doing it.
You're not doing it?
No deal. Sorry.
Wow.
No.
The fine folks in Utah aren't going to like that.
I hope no one watches it. Don't send it.
We're
to them,
huge in
please.
Utah.
Yeah. Big following.
Huge.
Big following over there. Wow. Okay. Dill pickles. I was not expecting that to be your favorite food.
That's how, you know what?
Oh, God.
Yeah, I agree. I love dill pickles, but I always think those questions, it's got to be like pasta or pizza or something. But like dill pickles can go with a lot of stuff. You can have dill pickle ice cream. There you are. It's a real food on its own.
How often do you eat dill pickles, though? Like, are you eating a dill pickle on a daily basis? Like, what's...
Yeah,
really?
How about that?
Wow. Okay.
Great for
Maybe, or
electrolytes.
like, if I don't eat some pickles for a few days, then I'm eating like more pickles the next day.
Wow.
You got to get those. There's like the one brand here that I always see at the grocery store, like Elmer's or something like that. But it's like a guy
in the refrigerator.
Yeah, and it's like those really good. Oh,
they're fire.
So good.
They're
fire.
fire.
Anyway, this has been the dill pickle talk. All right, who's a well-known, generally liked player you've played against and do not like?
Sabrina Ionescu. You know that, Joey.
And it kills me because she's like my favorite player in the WNBA. Why do you not like Sabrina Ionescu?
Just I didn't like her attitude in college.
Her attitude did get her very far, though. So sometimes you can't please everybody. But is it like trash talk? Like what is like when is it like, or just the way she carries herself on the court? Like what is it that I wouldn't see?
It's a bit of everything combined, and then how she talks to like other people as well. That maybe you can't pick up on like from TV or even like watching a game unless you're like literally on the court right by it happening type thing.
That's crazy. Oh man, I like her shoes too. Darn it. Now I feel bad getting them.
Hey, I mean, people change. Who knows? There's probably. I mean, I'm not the same person I was in college, right? You grow and change so much, so maybe she isn't either.
I'll have to figure it out. I'll meet her and I'll let you know.
Okay, great.
We're getting spicy on this target time. Wow, letting the Utah
Spicy dill.
down.
Spicy dill.
Yes, arena talk. Wow, I'm loving it. Emily, I noticed on your Instagram yesterday, even though it was Thursday, that you asked, what was it? Would you rather question? Would you rather Wednesday question? Is that something that you do every Wednesday?
I used to do it like religiously for like a year. I think it was when I was overseas a couple years ago, but every once in a while I bring it back because the people really love it. And this last summer, training with the national team, I brought them back for the, and I would just like write them on the whiteboard in the meal room or just ask my teammates at mealtime. They got really mad that I asked that one at mealtime a couple weeks ago. That's the one I shared yesterday. It was really gross.
That was a gross one.
But yeah.
What's your favorite would you
Yeah, I
rather
think it's
question?
fun.
Your go-to. What's your number one would you rather question that you like to ask?
I don't know if I have like a go-to one because there's so many weird ones rattling around in my brain.
What's your favorite one?
But a good one that I've been using lately is, would you rather be slapped every morning by a 12-year-old or slap a 7-year-old every night at 11 p.m.? And it's kind of like, I'll tell you why I like it because it's kind of like a bit of morality. Like, you can tell a lot about a person on their answer. It's a different 12-year-old and a 7-year-old every day. So to me, anytime I do a would you rather, there's a right and a wrong answer here, okay? You should be picked to be slapped by a 12-year-old. If you choose to slap a 7-year-old, how are you going to sleep soundly after you slap a little child? And
do you have to okay, I was going to ask, do you have to slap them like hard? Like, okay. Yes. Not just a little love tap, okay.
Poor little 7-year-old just like, hey, slap, go to bed. Like, no.
Did you think of that yourself or you saw that online somewhere? Like, that's a very...
No, I definitely found that one online.
Okay.
Definitely found that one online. But I've been asking everybody that lately, and it's a good one.
Oh, man. I don't want to... I like the one you asked yesterday, like your SOS moment, but it's not in my question repertoire. But one of the things she told me yesterday was like, what's your SOS? Like something that I'm doing that you should probably check in on me that's really out of character, and I can't figure it out. And it came with, I don't know if you saw, Taylor, the Vancouver Bandits went skydiving.
Yes, Glenn Yang.
So that's what spurred this conversation.
Yeah, if you see me skydiving, it means I have no regard left for my life. Like, if I'm skydiving, I think that that's going to be my last action and that, like, the parachute's not going to open. So, like, come catch me, come help me. And my teammates were all different. So one of my teammates said that if she's camping, it's against her free will, go save her. She's not camping on her own accord. Like, it's not her decision there. So if you ever see her posting about camping, like, I'm gonna be like, I need to go run and help.
Do you have any SOS thing, Tay? I can't think of one.
Oh, man. Well, I am scared of heights, so maybe skydiving. That's probably that'd probably be up there for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't care to go
I've never thought
skydiving
of that.
either.
Wow. Jeez.
That's a good one, right? Yeah. Insightful Emily Potter.
Yeah.
Okay,
But got to go with the 12-year-old slapping you in the face. I mean, I feel like after a couple days, you'll get used to it. It'll toughen you up a little bit.
It'll wake you up.
Hey, but
every
wait,
morning.
it's a different 7-year-old? Like, I'm not hitting the same 7-year-old every morning?
Different 7-year-old you're slapping and a different 12-year-old slapping you.
I'll still go with the 12-year-old, but...
Yeah, good answer. You guys pass.
All right. Favorite place that you've played? And why? Because it could be because the city's cool, or the atmosphere, or the arena's cool. Like, what's the coolest place you played? Favorite.
Coolest.
Or favorite, whatever.
Favorite. It's tough. I mean, I did love playing in college, in Utah. The arena there, the game day production, like, there hasn't been much like it. And I was just talking to my sister about this the other day. We were there for the Sea Bears and their pre-game video, hype video, the starting lineup announcement, super cool. But my sister was like, nothing comes close to when you played at Utah. And my whole family was there for senior day, and they, had the projection on the court, they had the Jumbotron, and I swear they make the whole arena just like bleed red. Like, it's crazy.
Oh, cool.
So it's a super cool arena. And it's kind of like, it's like a dome, the Huntsman Center. So the court is down there. You do have a couple like courtside rows, but then it like goes up like pretty steep all the way around. So it's also a really unique stadium compared to other arenas in what was formerly known as the Pac-12 RIP.
Yes. They're going to the Big 12 now, Utah, I think, right? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, Big 12.
Crazy. Can't even keep up. Every year these conferences are all changing. It's no more good rivalries anymore. It's all over the place. Yeah, it's a mess. But next question for you. What's a hidden gem of Winnipeg? Whether it's a restaurant that doesn't get enough love, or maybe this obscure park or a shop or whatever it may be. What's a hidden gem of Winnipeg in your opinion?
I definitely got a couple. I mean, one of my favorite coffee shops would have to be Little Sister. Joey knows this. That's the one by Morley in Osborne. I think they have, a good amount of seating, and I love going there to get work done and pretend like I'm, a little productive member of society working from home or whatever. Yeah, super nice people, super cool aesthetic on the inside. I really like it. Another hidden gem would have to be my favorite burger place, George's Burgers and Subs, on the corner of, St. Mary's and whatever that street is.
That's the original.
And I've been going there.
Right? Yeah.
That's the original.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
The original one. My parents have been going there since before I was born. So that would be the local burger joint that I grew up going to. And every time I'm home, I still am like, I need a Fat Boy. I need a foot-long hot dog. So that's where I go to get my fix of, a Manitoba Fat Boy, which is a Manitoba
It's
thing,
totally,
so.
yeah. Manitoba's got a good reign of like Manitoba things. The Fat Boy and Honey Dill Sauce probably being like the top two for me, I think. I'm not even sure if that's my top two, but Honey Dill Sauce is my top for sure. Love that stuff. All right. So, and also the Little Sisters on River is like not as much seating, but also a hidden gem. That's my go-to place. All right. So what Sea Bears game? So what player on the Sea Bears game most resembles yours? And what player can use a little bit of Emily Potter's toolbox in their game to bring him to the next level?
Well, they are 9 and 10, so I feel like they could all use a little more of a...
They might just sign Emily Potter. I think.
Yeah, honestly, they do need a big right now.
That'd be a dream.
But you still have to do the post-game show. So after you're done playing, you got to run over and do the post-game show.
Easy. I'll be in the game, so I'll have even more insight for you. I feel like for me, yes, I like playing down low, but I also really like to fast break. So I'm like, I feel like, some of the post players could maybe use that to their advantage, like leaking out for some easy layups. There's no defense. It's the best time to score. Or, I like to shoot like a 15-foot mid-range jumper. It's one of my favorite shots. Catch and shoot from the high post. So I feel like within the Sea Bears offense, the posts don't often find themselves at that high post position because that's not a shot, that's probably good for them. But yeah, I'd say all of the post players, Starkey and Chad,
Nice.
I want to see some fast breaks. I want to see some high post jumpers. And I don't know who resembles my game the most because I am a different player than the posts that they have. And then who else do we have? I'm definitely not Simon or Emmanuel because they are way better shooters and way more athletic than I will ever be.
What about Shane or Chad?
Yeah, honestly, maybe Shane would be closest because he is a little bit more of an in-betweener forward. I guess Stefan Engo. Yeah. He's one of your faves, so there you go.
Hey, man, that's a good story.
I can block shots. I can block some shots, get some rebounds.
See, there you go. That's a great story. Like I say, if you could jump out a video coordinator, I always joke around. It's like, he just jumped from accounting and started playing basketball. The last game he played, Taylor, I don't think we said this last one, but the last game Stefan Ingo played, I asked him, when's the last time you played competitive basketball in a competitive game? He said, before I got back to Winnipeg, the last game I played was the playoff game in Winnipeg against Edmonton. That's nuts.
And I was playing 20 minutes a night for these guys.
Crazy. More than he was last year. It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's such a good story.
Yeah.
Insane.
Crazy.
Emily, who's on your Mount Rushmore of women's basketball players? So who's your top 4? Who makes the cut?
Just asking hard-hitting questions.
So we do a target score weekly.
That's right.
On my Mount Rushmore. I think I'm going to put on Natalie Achanwa. She's now a 4-time Olympian with Canada basketball.
Nice.
And one of our true vets right now. And I've really gotten to know her a lot better this summer and appreciate all of her insight and knowledge. And yeah, she's the only 4-time Olympian for Canada for basketball. So she definitely deserves to be my all-time top 4. I'm putting Asia Wilson on it because I know she's currently still playing, but in my mind, she's the best basketball player right now. You can't tell me otherwise. She's the best basketball player in the world. And she's been on an absolute tear in the WNBA. Should have won the MVP last year. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if the Aces are going to be able to three-peat. That'd be insane. but I know that she's doing everything in her power from like one player standpoint to make sure that happens. Like, it's just absolutely insane to watch the numbers she's putting out. Crazy. Two more players. This is tough.
Sabrina Ionescu, obviously, right?
Yeah, for sure. She might be front and center.
Do I want to put guards or do I want to stay all bigs? Like, honestly,
So it's your Mount Rushmore. You can do what you want.
Stay on brand, you know?
I am a bit. Yeah, stay on brand. I mean, a player that I think is like super good is Emma Messiman. She plays for Belgium. She's also played in the WNBA before. But she has like won at every single level. She has a WNBA championship, like 5 EuroLeague championships, like, or 6, like tied for like all time in that regard. And to play like EuroLeague, then WNBA, and to do that year round, to play with your national team. And we've seen Belgium have like a rise of becoming a very good national team program. They weren't for a lot of years. And I feel like it's because she's in the program. Like, and I'm going to put, now that I'm saying she's won at every level, I have to put Maya Moore because I think she is also one of the best players to ever play the game because, again, she won at every single level and she was so good. And I don't think people appreciated her enough while she was still playing. And then when she, like, you know, stepped away from the game, I was like, I don't think we're ever going to see her again. And we haven't. And she just quietly walked off into the sunset. And I'm upset about that.
I feel like there's a documentary, kind of like that Finding Big Country. The old Brian Reeves from the Vancouver Grizzlies kind of did the same thing. See, you already got some projects for post-career. This is good. This is good. Also, on the Aces note, I'm pretty sure the Aces are playing in Minnesota against the Lynx at the end of August. And then on Friday and then Saturday, they play the Fever. I really want to go down to catch those games.
Ooh,
Yeah, I want
sick.
to. I bet you those games will be hard, though, for the... I haven't checked tickets, but for that second game particularly.
Let me. I do have a friend that plays on the Lynx, so let me know. Maybe I can
Use my connects. I love it. All right. Okay, this is my last question. Aside from Olympic goals, what's one experience you'd like to have before you retire?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I have hit basically every goal that I've wanted
I think
to.
there's one, though. Experience. It doesn't have to be goal. Experience. Something that you want to experience.
I mean, I would like to win another championship as a pro.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done it, but I would like another one. Do you have something in mind?
Well,
that
you
you're
kind of
trying to
touched on it
hint
earlier. I
towards?
thought you might. I thought it might be your answer after you said it earlier on the show. I didn't know beforehand, but I wondered about the Winnipeg. Like, now that the Sea Bears are here, they've got the new court, and now that they're able to kind of draw bigger events, and you see yourself playing a game with Team Canada in Winnipeg at Canada Life Center, or having a training camp here.
Yeah, that would honestly, like, oh, that'd be insane because I don't know, while I'm still playing, if there's going to be a women's league that like pops up in the country. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I would consider coming out of retirement for a summer or something if we had something like the CEBL, just to have that experience to be able to play at home. But yeah, any opportunities we get to have exhibition games hosted in Canada is always fantastic. We've done it the last 2 years in Victoria. We've done it before in Edmonton. And my sister and brother-in-law were able to come out to Victoria, you know, last month and see me play. And it just means so much because the last time they saw me play was literally 2016 in Edmonton when we had an exhibition game there. So the opportunities for my family to see me play live are few and far between. And then to be able to do it with a Canada jersey just is so special. So we'll see, you know, what Canada Basketball and CEBL has in store in the future, because I know they are, you know, pretty strong partners and working to continue to strengthen those partnerships. So,
But you know, Basketball Manitoba's going to be backing that like crazy, too. I bet you they're already like...
Right, you think we could get 10,000 people for a senior women's national team game? Canada versus whoever?
I think so, 100%.
If you have Team Canada, and especially if you've got a Winnipegger or Winnipeggers in the lineup, I think they show. I think you hit the whatever the cap that the Sea Bears hit, if not exceed it, just because it's a one game thing, right? Like basically a once in a lifetime. It doesn't happen too often in Winnipeg. So for some people, that would be the first time in their life ever seeing Team Canada. So I think for sure they would show out for that game.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. But I'll cap off the segment with some real hard-hitting journalism here. Emily, on average, yeah, that's right. On average, how many times a week, Emily, do you get asked, "Hey, how tall are you?"
depends how often I go in public. If I hide out, where I hide out. It definitely matters how often. But almost every time I leave the house.
Is it
Almost
followed by,
every
do you play
time.
basketball?
Sometimes basketball is a follow-up question, but yeah, like if I'm out walking somewhere, like it'll happen, like 100%, it'll happen.
Who's usually
And if
asking
people
you
don't
this?
ask, they stare.
Oh, that's fun.
Anybody and everybody. The people at the cashier, the random people in the store, old people, young people. And I get that it's like, I have people that are like, you're the tallest girl I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, thanks.
Do you feel a little left out when you're hanging out with taller girls, though? And you're like, oh, man, no, I'm not the tallest one. I lost the title.
No, I love it. I love being around my teammates that are tall and I'm always around my family as well, who's tall. So to me, I just like get up in the morning and I'm like, I'm just a regular height here. Nothing weird here. But I get that it's like an anomaly for everybody else. So you want to make a comment on it. But what they don't realize is that like they think it's cool, so they make a comment on it, but then so does every single other person that ever sees me, and then it's like all I hear. So if people are like, oh, I love your height, how tall are you? That's fine with me. When people are like, oh my God, you're so tall, I'm like,
yeah. And the sky is blue.
Like, how do I respond to that? I say, haha, yeah. Ask me a question, I'll answer it.
I mean, I can see that being annoying. It's like when people are always like, oh, can't find the price tag, must be free. Like I remember when I used to work in any kind of retail or something. It's like, haha, I haven't heard that one before.
Exactly, haven't heard that one before. Literally.
Yeah, it's a little more personal for sure. But I was like, yeah, I can see where that would get frustrating or annoying for sure.
Right. At least I'm trying to think over under like at least 5 times a week.
5 times a week. Wow. That's crazy.
Wow. And that will probably continue for a little while, but you're well equipped to take care of it. Well, that concludes Target Time. No, I appreciate the time this morning coming on, Emily. We wanted to have you on for a long time, and just this summer has been tough, I know, with all the travel for you and everything you've got going on. So thanks for making the time here before the end of the season. We appreciate it, and hopefully we'll have you on again, maybe before you head out for your new European adventure that we're not quite sure where it is, but we know it's in Europe.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right, sounds good. All right, thanks, Emily. Appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to the Target Score Weekly podcast. To stay up to date with Winnipeg Sea Bears and CEBL news, as well as future episode releases, follow Joey and Taylor on Twitter and Instagram @TaylorAllen31 and @JoeySlatteryTV. And wherever you're getting the podcast, be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.